Hey toy fans, Scott ToyGuru Nightlick here, and I'm here today to talk about a brand that I'm not as well known for. A lot of folks know me from the time I spent at Mattel, specifically working on brands like Masters of the Universe Classics and DC Universe Classics, as well as the online store MattyCollector.com. But I also did spend some time working on Star Wars. I worked on the Episode 7 launch for Jakks Pacific, creating their Big Figs line, or at least creating the branding to go on the Big Figs line. I am also a huge Star Wars fan in my, personal life, if you will. I have thousands of Star Wars 3 3/4 action figures, as well as other various scales. And one of the things that comes up a lot is why Star Wars toys are just not selling the way they used to. Back in the day, back in nostalgia land when our memories were in black and white, Star Wars toys were everything. They were the rave. They did everything we wanted them to. They took us to a galaxy far, far away, and they let us play in a way that we really never got engaged with content before. Now, speaking of content, for the last 20 years, almost every big sci-fi movie out there has been constantly called the next Star Wars. This is the movie that's going to sell toys like Star Wars does, whether it's Avatar or Titan AE. But lo and behold, we have new Star Wars, and the toys aren't selling. Now, I don't mean to pick on Rose Tico, and we all know the issues with her as a character, but we also know when you go to retail right now, and it's February 2020 right now, the toys just aren't what they used to be. Now, I'm not trying to pick on Forces of Destiny.
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly?
But what I am saying is Star Wars toys and the content has fundamentally changed. And what I want to address in this video is why is that? Why has the content and why have the toys and product lines changed from what they used to be back in the day? Alright, so what do I mean by toyetic properties? What this is inherent things built into a property that make them translate as toys. Like, for example, Luke in his X-Wing. It's not just a ship, but it's something that gets him to his adventures, that becomes a part of the actual action itself.
Have you not?
Also, things like lightsabers. The reason they work and work as toys is because they're signature weapons of both the good guy and the bad guy, and they have an instant transformation, a visual payoff. The blade instantly comes out of the hilt. That makes an amazing toy. Another big element that is a toyetic quality is a masked villain. Characters that are masked are way more aspirational than characters without masks because you can see yourself as them. And yes, we know eventually Darth Vader takes his mask off in the end, but compare that to the new villain, Kylo Ren. The moment he takes his mask off, he is way less interesting as a character and way less aspirational. Another issue is the number of characters. The new movies just have so many. Who do you gravitate to? Unless you have a character that you really bond with and compare yourself to, it's very hard to immerse yourself into this fantasy world. Okay, so there's a million videos on YouTube talking about the mythic journey and the mythic qualities of Star Wars. Even Joseph Campbell's book now has Luke Skywalker on the cover. But this isn't just placating to an audience. There is an inherent quality to stories that when they follow this type of roadmap and follow a very specific cultural journey that a hero goes on, audiences can relate to that. And without that kind of journey, without that kind of payoff, you just don't have a way to immerse yourself into the fantasy environment. This is a very specific journey, which honestly Campbell lays out very easily in his book, And he was a consultant on the first movie. He was right there on the set. Without something like this infused into the property, it bleeds over into the licensed product and it directly affects sales. If you don't see yourself as the hero, why would you want to be the hero? Alright, so here's the really big one, what I call forced play. So back in the day, we had things like the early bird certificate, but what we really had was a movie cinematic experience only. Yes, we had the VHS tapes, but those didn't come around until the later 80s. Before the VHS tapes, the only way to watch Star Wars was to see it in the movie theater. And because of that, it forced you to create your own adventures and to continue the story. When you couldn't watch it at home, the movie experience was it, and this gap is very important. We can best illustrate this gap with the single most important line in the entire franchise. And no, I'm not talking about this line, I'm talking about this line.
I thought you had decided to stay.
Well, the bounty hunter we ran into in Lord Mendel changed my mind.
Why is this line so important? Why is this the core of my entire argument today? Because this was the line that made Star Wars a never-ending story. Han directly addresses adventures that happened between the first Star Wars, A New Hope, and the first sequel, Empire Strikes Back. This is what allowed children to have their own adventures. Things happened between the movies. They were what's called an avatar for the imagination. Yes, again, you can watch them over and over again on Disney+, but The Last Jedi, the way it fell off the rails for me was not the injected feminism, not the humor or the expectations. It was the timeline. Between all of the other films, there was a separation of time. But here with The Last Jedi, it picks up immediately after the last film. And this is what cancels out the imagination factor. Kids don't have a period of time to make up their own adventures. And making up your own adventures is why Star Wars toys worked. We'll always have nostalgia. We'll always have the moments that we loved about the original films. But without this period of time between films, allowing fans and, well, kids to make up adventures, you can't succeed with toy lines.
That is why you fail.
Yes, you can always deliberately create characters that are meant to be toys, another aspect of toyetic qualities. But without that lag, without those times for people to make up their own adventures and to infuse their own mythic qualities into their stories, having adventures in your backyard and your basement are so much more important than watching the original content. But the content needs to provide this gateway. And that's what the new films don't do. Now, is there a future? Can Star Wars be saved, if you will? Sure. It's an amazing adventure-based universe, and the fans are so passionate. But unless the content is structured around letting the fans create their own adventure and go off to their own galaxy far, far away, you'll never see the type of success you had in the past. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. If you've liked what you've seen, if you want to see more, please do subscribe. Let me know what you'd like to see more of in the comments. And if you're looking for help with branding, creating toyetic elements into your toy line, and finding ways to improve your content to support toys, look up SpectraCreative.com. That's what we do. We're here to help you take your toy lines and your product line and make them complement the content for maximized sales. This has been Scott ToyGuru Nightlick. Thanks for watching.